Welcome to another episode. Everything you wanted to know about dogs, but you didn't have whom to ask. My name is Sash Rees, and another Thursday, 7 plus a little bit more Eastern time, and we're gonna go over human-dog relationship out from Pure Love and Harmony Wellness formula, because that's what makes you very intrigued. How the behavior of yours and how emotional of ours, not yours, mine too, because I'm a doggy dad too. So how our emotional state and our behavior directly impacts a canine physiology, your dog's physiology. How the way I treat myself, my emotional well-being, direct is in ratio of my dog's well-being. So it's very interesting, and I was talking about that in my book about a dog's an awakening that you can find on Amazon, I guess, like Sash Rees, about a dog's an awakening. And the wolf, the book is talking about how the dogs are taking our burdens of our everyday life, including maybe some life traumas that are preventing us from living this life fully engaged and immersed in this moment and the present moment here and now, and how actually by helping us navigate through the life, they might end up taking a long and big burden on them that might cause some suffering, that might end up in their well-being, like hurting their well-being, maybe some symptoms or some, some illnesses can emerge from that. I was, handling a show dogs for almost 25 years, and I was very successful, like taking care about one of the most amazing dogs this world will ever have, traveling the globe with a very, valuable dog. Some of them are worth a couple of millions of dollars, had so much money in their careers. And my job was to take care about them, to try to find and extract the best possible performance of those dogs on shows. And as I was developing a kind of an amazing relationship with them, they started to win show after the show. And finally I retired on the World Dog Show in Milano, 2015. And since then, I'm kind of spreading that message, like, how do you care for $1 million show dogs? And I share that secret formula with the doggy moms like you. So that's so simple formula, actually, because what you need to unite in order to have this wonderful dog that loves to be shown, to perform, and to enjoy working for the master, for the doggy dad, or for whoever they are developing a relationship with, is communication. How do I communicate with my dogs? How do I feed my dogs? And how do I care for their coat? And if all of those three things are present, then the extraordinary well-being of the dogs is seen. The beauty just radiates through. And then that's the breathtaking beauty of these beautiful creatures and animals that we tend to see in the conformation show dog world. And on the other side, it's very interesting to see how we fail to incorporate that structure of the relationship in between a pet parent, like a parent and a pet parent and doggy parent with their dogs. And I was when I finally retired 2015, and I stopped showing for my clients, I was finally I said, like, now it's my time to have a pet, because I was always living with the show dogs, and those amazing dogs were living with me, so I can dedicate entire time to them, care for them, and then prepare for them, train for them, style them, and then travel the world with them. So finally, when I retired after I won the world title, like a World Dog Show in Milano 2015, I said, okay, you cannot be this, especially because I was a first in a class, so I got a world winner. And first runner-up was one of biggest mentors I had in my life. So I said like, oh my God, you don't go better than this. And I see it's a bit wonderful and amazing time to end my career. So I said, okay, this is the last show. This is the last dog. This is a great achievement. So let's move to the next stage. And I said, while I was having that little, like a year of break, I started to have my own dog. I said I find a special litter for me. So it was the puppy I got was a granddaughter of one of my dogs that I cared for, and I said like, oh my God, I love Dana, and I would just love to have her puppy on one stage or the other. So I took Tito, and then what happens is that Tito developed enormous separation anxiety. Living with me, like I was kind of like, I was here traveling the globe. The people were paying me thousands of dollars a day, like traveling like a private jet, lifestyle of luxury, because I was able to care for their dogs perfectly, and I performed with those dogs, and I was like an amazing performance. But that's where my uniqueness came from. So I was like VIP clients only, so only one dog at a time, one breed at a time. So my dogs has always like fully focused. I was not a show dog handler that had like a full kennel of 50 dogs and then traveled the world with like a entire, I was traveling with one dog. And then those people were really paying me a lot to care for their dog. But they wouldn't do that if I wouldn't provide the outcome, the results. So now here I am having my Tito that develops separation anxiety that I never dealt with before. No show dogs had a separation anxiety. Finally, I was kind of taking in this relationship with Tito with me. But at the same time, at that 2015, I was going through the terrible breakup. After I divorced, I was like my wife at 2012. I for 1 year, like till 2013, I guess I was like single, and then I ended up in a very interesting relationship that ended 2015 when I finally got off my stage. I said, okay, now I don't want to show dogs anymore. I'm gonna take a year break and see what I'm gonna do after that. But during that year, I had an amazingly terrible private life. I got through that breakup. All the businesses that I was trying to set up, because now from one sort of the business I want to evolve into another that I'm lacking skills of. I try to do the best possible time, but I'm failing. Every single thing I touch, I fail to do. And then the dogs come in my life. Tito comes in my life. And then, like, next to nothing, in a couple of months, he developed a severe separation anxiety. I cannot leave the home without him crying and scratching the door, and then chewing everything and peeing all over the place and barking frantically. So the friends were calling me back, like, "Oh, can you just come back, because looks like the dog wants to jump off the window." How terrible that relationship is. And I was like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to, like, how can this happen? Like, after 25 years of me serving the world class show dogs, now I have a puppy that has a separation anxiety. But also my life was a mess at the time as well. And then because of my life, my relationship, I end up on the therapy. And I ended up from one therapy to another, third, whatever I had there, I end up on a family constellation therapy. Family constellation therapy that I was so amazed with that I immediately signed up for the school. So I used that 1 year of me, instead of doing anything, I was going through my counseling, through that therapy as well signed up for the education within that therapeutic method. Because it was so natural for me, it was so amazing for me to understand that there is a system within the system. And since it was so natural to me, because I was entire my life, I was living next to the dogs, and the system was something that the dogs felt so much in love with, that they always need to have a structure. Until I was able to provide a structure to the dogs I interacted with, dogs were calm, performed perfectly, had a wonderful, happy life, didn't mind everything, where I was, what I did. I was living with the dogs previously, but I was having a very specific lifestyle with those dogs because I was paid to perform properly, and I was finding the way to make it perfectly right. While when I had my pet dog, I was thinking like, oh, it's my pet. I love him. I just want to cuddle. I just want to have all of this beautiful life that I failed maybe to have with my dogs that I was paid to do the right job with. And then on the end, I ended up having a better relationship with the dogs that lived in the structure than with my own dog. But then all made sense after I understood the rules of the family constellation therapy. My life was actually very much settled by the very much, abusive childhood on a lot of levels. Like my family members were very emotionally and also physically abusive to me. Even then, from this distance now, looking back, I don't want to justify actions of none. However, I was just I was like very sensitive guy, very sensitive child, and like even wrong looking at me or wrong doings or wrong sayings hurt me a lot. And then I was like ended up in all kind of abusive relationship through the bullying through the childhood in the schools, and no matter where I turned, I stayed alone. And then there was a time when I was really literally thinking to end my agony. I had a suicidal thoughts. And the only reason why I didn't do that was the question that, because back then I was just thinking about, I was very connected to my dog, and I said like, who gonna take care about my dog if I do something to myself? So that was the reason. That was the last time when I had this intensive thinking about the only way to end this abuse would be to cut my life short. And I was having more and more of those thoughts. And at one time I said like, okay, even if I do this to myself, my life gonna be done and my suffering gonna be done. But then who gonna take care about my Bobby? Bobby was my dog at the time. And when I said that to myself, I said, there is no one that would love him and care for him as much as I am. And maybe I shouldn't think about these things, because if something happened to me, then the dog gonna be left on his own. And that's how I dedicated my life, to discover this wonderful bond where at one point the dog was pulling me away from the bridge, because that was my ideal, because that, I don't know, that's what I saw in a movie. I don't know how that ended up. I should think about how should I end my life. But that was like what I was thinking. I should jump off the bridge. I don't know how to swim. Maybe it's going to be fast. But then at that point, when I was having my dog, I said like, oh my God, thinking suicidal thoughts are not an option anymore, because who's going to take care about my dog? And that is when my life started to going toward journey, taking care for dogs. That entire moment of my saving my life was because of the dogs. And I dedicated my life to dogs. And now, when I'm trying to spread this amazing message of the Pure Love and Harmony Wellness Formula, uniting all of these 35 years of knowledge into communicating with dog properly, taking care about nutrition properly, and having them taking care about their coat properly, that gives you a wonderful opportunity to wrap up an amazing relationship with the dog. But there is also a secret ingredient. That's emotional entanglement that every one of us has with the dog, and oftentimes can hurt the dog much more than we can think. And in that exact moment, we can lose our reality as well. Because if we apply orders of harmony and orders of love that are actually foundations of the family constellation therapy, we end up having a clear answer why are we so much emotionally entangled with our dogs, and why we cannot look at the dogs like an animal that need our care, perfect and right care, and why do we humanize the dog and oftentimes cross that line. Oftentimes crossing that line takes us into path without coming back, like how tiny line is to get into the trap of over-humanizing the dogs, when actually we start mirroring ourselves in the face of dog. And that's oftentimes, if we mirror ourselves in the face of dog, and we tend to say, I like dogs more than I like humans. I can develop better relationship with my dog than I can have with any fellow man. I can have a better communication with my dog than I can have with my children. I have a better relationship with my dog than I have with my parents. I can have this feeling of unconditionally love to my dog than I can feel to any other human being. Unfortunately, it's a trap. It's a trap, and it's a tiny line that if we cross, it actually takes our energy away, life source of energy takes away, and takes away the projection of over-humanization, takes away energy of the dog. And if this life source of energy lacking, both of us actually are slowly but surely going to the road that we both gonna end up having lack of life source energy that drains both of us. And in oftentimes the dog is going to develop severe issues, both behavior way or even symptomatic way, some diseases. I must tell you the story when I started. So that's my breakthrough that I was talking about in my book about the Dogs and Awakening. The breakthrough understanding is implementing family constellation therapy inside the human-dog relationship. The first question to be answered when I start to navigate through this journey of emotional entanglement with my dog, the first question arise to be answered is, why do I have a dog? I love dogs. Dogs like me. I got him to the present. I was just walking by and I saw this dog. That's a logical level. That's a linear level of understanding the mind can comprehend, and we can be assured that there is a reason. Okay, there is a logical reason for that. Okay, my kids went away. I'm baby boomer. I don't have a family yet, millennials, or I don't want to have a family no matter for what reason. I'm lonely. I'm this, I'm that. But there is a logical reason of what guiding us to come to the point of, oh, I want a dog. The idea starts coming into my mind, and then suddenly I have a dog. But then if the broader picture is both to that perception of I have a dog and why I have a dog, the question to answer is, when did I get the dog? How did I emotionally felt when the dog came in my life? What are the circumstances in which I live when the dog came in my life? And then start thinking about who the dog is representing within my life. The dog is a missing puzzle to the mastery of our life. But the dog on its own, it's not a solution. It's a navigative cast. It's a tool to a solution. But if we see the dog as a solution on its own, we're gonna lack actually the solution on its own, gonna be lacking and keep lacking until it doesn't drain a last drop of our life source from us. So. And then oftentimes when I'm putting this family constellation therapy together, and when the people are having this forceful inclusion of the dog as a family member. So the dog in a family, like 99% of the people would say that the dog is a family member. But saying it like that might exclude a family member that the dog represents from the family, which actually we will still make a family be incomplete, with a false representative in the shoes of the real one. So in order for you to understand, I can come back to a story that I was talking about in the book. And that's a story about a guy, a gentleman actually, I'm sorry, that was coming to me to put his family constellation therapy, like a pet family constellation. So the question to a pet family constellation is, why does my dog experience anxiety? Why does my dog, and what my dog communicates to me through his suffering, both behavioral or symptomatic. So what the symptom or the dog's behavior communicates within this family system. And then there are the tools of the family constellation that can be put together in order to guide us to the solution, to the real picture. So he flew in from, I think it was like, I don't know where he came from now, because it was like somewhere from. He was directed to me by my friend, because he was crying to her, telling the story that the veterinarians are, his dog is suffering from epileptic attack. And the veterinarians are having a trouble finding a right solution after 5 years of constantly increasing the number of the combination of those medications to hold these seizures under control. And unfortunately, the dog starts having up to 10 seizures a day on the medications. And they said, like, there is nothing more they can do, because increasing any amount of the medication going to euthanize the dog on its own. So what they suggested would be to put the dog down. And he couldn't do that. He came to me because he was talking to my friend, and she said, maybe you should try Sasha, because that's maybe, I don't know, like, just at least talk to him. Because at that time I was already experimenting with this family constellation dog entanglement situation. We spoke on the phone, like, let's say Friday. Sunday he was already in Belgrade visiting me on this counseling. And we went through a nice meditation first. We met, we talked a little bit, and then we went to the meditation. A dog was with us as well. He flew in with the dog. A dog was sitting in between us. And this talk of ours and meditation of ours went like maybe for 1 hour, right? And he was just always looking at the dog, and he said, like, a dog looks like so peaceful. And the dog was a Cocker Spaniel. Oh no, dog was like I'm sorry, it's a black, big black. It's not a Doberman, it's a Rottweiler. So the dog was a big Rottweiler laying next to us. He said, like, oh my God, like, I'm like anxious here because I'm so relaxed with our talk and this meditation, and I see him laying down here, expecting him to have a seizure in a second, but the seizure is just not coming. I said, let's work, let's dive in deeper, let's go deeper, let's understand, like, this relate, let's cut this source and, cut this and pull it out now at this point. So we went to a family constellation therapy. And because I have his permission to talk about this, and I was talking about that in a book, you can read it in more details. But what came to be is actually that the dog was a present to his daughter when he divorced the mother of the child. Because the marriage was bad, and that we were talking about the marriage and how the dog ended up in the home, and how the dog have very protective towards family and everything. And when the dog started to develop seizures and how fast that was, and now he was like going to all the veterinarians, and everything was like, okay, just put him on medication. Because with the epileptic attack, it's so interesting. We do know the chemistry, we do know electricity, how it works in the brain, how it pumps, how it stimulates the same neuron to take a signal and go through that. So there is no that portion of resting membrane potential that actually leaves neuron unactivated after once time the signal is transferred through it. So in epileptic attack, that resting time doesn't exist. So what happens if, no matter for what reason, the trigger is, that's what the science cannot find. What is the trigger? The effect of the trigger is already known, because that's what happens is the same neuron is triggering the signals over and over and over, tick, 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 and in that moment the attack starts. But the question, if you can decide, and if we would be able to find the trigger, by eliminating the trigger from the entire space of the dog's life, we would be able to control the epileptic attacks. That's why oftentimes the medication serves to prevent body from reacting, but not actually finding out what the dog is actually reacting on. Family constellation therapy can lead us to an emotional entanglement between humans and dogs, in which dogs react on a deep, uncovered, and maybe oftentimes compressed emotions that we actually experience without being aware of them. Because they are already forcing our life to, guiding our life with this freeziness of the trauma or whenever it happens, that we don't even react to that. But our dogs does. Because our dogs know that if we will not be able to find the solution for this, what we bury deeply in us, and we do not deal with that very soon, we're going to pay the price. Probably by getting ill or dying. And then the one question that the dogs develop anxiety from is, what's going to happen to me after you die? Who's going to take care about me? And that is oftentimes what triggers the dog's reaction, is our inability to cope with our emotions, buried emotion, long forgotten traumas, that something can be like transgenerational. So to cut this story short, we talked into this, and then at one point, he was like pretty big guy, like muscled, like very structured. And we were talking slowly, and as more he was coming, and then I was like, through this little interview, we ended up talking about divorce. And at one point, I was trying to navigate because when family constellation therapy is actually energetical connection to a unified field of all the knowledge and existence. And family constellation therapists are trained to listen to these very intense emotions that we process through our body. And then I can actually feel what's felt. I can mirror the client, and then I can, come in myself. And then by understanding my physical body and reactions to a situation, I can then process those feelings and just put up the questions. Oftentimes, I'm not aware of the question. Oftentimes, when I was, trying to develop this human-dog relationship constellations, I was, of course, asking permission, I was recording these sessions. And oftentimes, I hear myself asking the question that I was not aware I was asking. So that's so interesting. And I was oftentimes connect with the dog and asking the dog questions, asking the dog a permission to unfold and to show the unseen. And there the question arose, asking like, how many kids he has? And I have one daughter. And but there is someone else wanting to be seen. How many kids we have? And now at once, I start changing from you into us. I don't know why, but in every single interview, when I go through this process, the us. So how many kids we have? And he says, there is one. And then I connected deeply with the dog, and he said, no, there is two. And then I said, like, is there someone that's maybe unborn? And then he froze for a second. And then he said, yes. The moment he told her wife that he wanted to divorce, 3 weeks later, she's telling him that she's pregnant. And then he didn't want that connection on any level, neither that that's going to prevent them from divorcing, separating, going their own path, neither responsibility. And then he said, like, he forced her, actually, to abort the child. And that she agreed to that, and then they aborted the child. But that's very important for the entire system. And the family constellation therapy is teaching us that every one of us has his own destiny. Some destinies are meant not to be. But by not being a destiny, become a destiny of ones that are alive, the ones that move on, the ones that are alive. And oftentimes, we can feel the energy. And oftentimes that was, for example, my going through the life. I'm gonna talk a little bit about my life, and then I'm gonna transfer that back to his story, because I was able to connect with that too, without knowing entire my life. There was my daughter, my sister, and myself. I was the older child, and my sister was a younger child. And I had this deep problem that I was solving through the family constellation therapy. I didn't have any good relationships. I never had a nice relationship. Neither my marriage was a good relationship, neither my partnerships were nice relationships, neither the people worked for me, neither I worked for people. Every single engagement with the people was broken relationship. So when I was doing with my mentor, my family constellation on the relationship, it turned to be that I have 2 unborn siblings, but I never knew about them. And then I went to my mom and I asked, like, do you know about these 2 unborn siblings? Because they keep coming up in my family constellation therapy over and over and over. And she said, no, I have like only 2 of you, and that's it. 1 month later, out of nowhere, like we are some family dinner, she asked me, why did you ask me about these siblings like a month ago? She said, like, I said, I don't know, because I had this thing, and my mentor told me like not to ask, Mom, because oftentimes this is when they come up in the field shown as something that we tend to connect with, and once they embraced in fully, then from the perception of someone, in a way, they become a very big source of support. She came back to me telling, I had 2 abortions. But it was so painful experience for myself that I buried that under the carpet. I simply didn't remember them until you didn't tell me about them. And since then, since that family constellation, since those rituals that I put in place, the way I live the life now, in remembrance of those siblings that I'm not, it's not 2 of us, it's 4 of us. 2 of us has a life, and 4 of us has their own destinies. But that's very important. Oftentimes when I have, I'm going through these rituals, I would just, place the plates for all of them, remembering and acknowledging their existence, even though they doesn't have a physical form of body. Not doing that, feeling guilty about it, brushing it under the carpet because it's so painful, can cause this mental and traumatic forgetness. And that's actually forgetness in a freeze mode because it's too painful experience. Especially when you have this misunderstanding about should it be performed or not, should child be born or not. And on the end, he said, like, so now back to the story about that I was talking about in a book. Like, he started to cry, and he opened up that the story was the details. If you want, just you can read the book in a Kindle. I think it's maybe free as well. But that was amazing constellation. Then we do a couple of rituals to embrace that child again, to put it back in a system, to acknowledge the existence of it, to settle the energies and everything. And we spent like maybe 3 hours together. The dog didn't have any seizures. He thanks me. He goes away. I don't hear to him like for maybe 2-3 months, 5 months, whatever. out from nowhere, out from blue, he's calling me. And he told me, the first thing I didn't recognize his voice, and he's already started to telling me, oh my God, like, Sasha, you wouldn't believe what happened. The miracle happened. Since that day, since that little session, the dog is having just occasional seizures. And the reason why he's telling me that, how excited he is, that he can predict them. Because he exactly know which kind of emotional stress he is going through, and the dog gonna react, or will the dog react, and if the dog react, and when the dog is reacting. And he said, like, since that, like maybe 5 months later, the dogs had handful of seizures. The veterinarians cannot believe. And the lady that, because he was going there to, tell to the vet and to that clinic that's, operates in this wonderful, that was maybe the best clinic in Europe for the epileptic attacks and for handling and curing that. And there was in the waiting room was a lady that was just putting her stuff down because she said like, I couldn't deal with the seizures anymore. And he said like, I almost wanted to tell her the story of what did I went through, but I didn't want to tell her because she said, there is nothing I was able to do anymore for my dog, and I just put him down. And that was a day when she was putting him down. And instead of just going immediately home, she was waiting for the dog's body to get home so she can bury it. But he said, I didn't tell her because I know that if I tell her my story, then she would be very upset and maybe angry and thinking that she could do something else and more for the dogs to maybe try to have it a better life. So, and after that, he said like, he always remembers child. When someone asks him how many children he has, he would say 2. One is not with us and one is with us, and acknowledging something that's unseen, forgotten, cursed. Usually it's not what you think it is. It's something that's buried deep under the surface that bothers us the most, and that the dog stands to represent. And then not only that the dog went off with the seizures, the dog was becoming a completely little baby to every single one of them. No aggression, no nothing. He was not acting protective as he did before the session and before all of this, embracing and welcoming back to its place session that we had. Why I'm talking about all of this is because a very important part of our dog's well-being is our emotional well-being. And our emotional well-being oftentimes is covered by all kinds of false premises about who we are, how did we came here, what's our next step, and what should we do and why we are doing things we do. And oftentimes those things are just laid on the curse of destiny. And the destiny is oftentimes created by the events and places that we don't know existed or we don't remember existed in our life. And just in time, when we are ready to awaken ourselves and to move on with our life for the greater cause of finally fulfilling our purpose and destiny, the dogs appear in our life as an awakening moment of us embracing what's come through the dog in order to make us fulfilled. And that's what I was struggling a lot through my life, always feeling not enough. I felt nothing is enough. And that feeling of not enough was causing a very big and traumatic relationships because I was thinking that everything belongs to me, that I'm always in lack of love, in lack of money, in lack of food, in lack of everything. So I was going through the life collecting like a hermit, everything that I want. I was always having 2 jobs. I always had more food. I always wanted more money. I always want better career. I was never satisfied. And in a family constellation therapy, oftentimes that doubleness of the life, need for more, oftentimes comes from very deep grief for the unborn sibling and a guilt that on the unconscious level I can feel because I'm alive. I have an opportunity. I had all the chances and the miracles that comes with living the life, where the other ones so close to me, my flesh and bone, didn't have that chance for no matter what reason. No one is judging the past and no one is telling what's right or wrong. This is not an ethical lecture of anything, just embracing love and life for what is and doing with it whatever we want. And that, you might feel, and oftentimes like, turning around like there is by your shoulder, someone by your shoulder, feeling that I need to do a little more, a little harder because there is something more to be done, so I'm going to be feeling happy. And nothing brings that felt of fullness until we don't recognize that maybe I'm doing that for someone else. Maybe I'm doing that for my unborn sibling, maybe for the sibling of my mother or my father, or something deeper, the hidden family memory, the hidden event that no one wants to talk about because it's too painful. We live in America. Oftentimes the names were changed, the stories were forgotten purposefully to provide a free and new life to generations to come. Nothing can be forgotten and nothing can be erased, because more we try to erase it, more it comes back into ones that are alive. And that's the order of harmony and order of love. The primary focus of order of love is right to belong. Every single one of our ancestors, no matter how far we need to go in life, every single one of them, with being born or conceived, has right to belong. And if until we do not understand the deep penetration of the family constellation embodiment in our own consciousness, we won't be able to take everything from the life and to develop on it. We would always fulfill someone's destiny, and we're going to keep going through the life, through the closed doors, thinking that it's ours to do a hard work and to do 3 jobs and to love 3 people. Oftentimes we would end up in relationships and always being cheated on or cheat on the others because we need a second one, so we can have 2 wives, so one for me, one for my unborn brother that I never heard or know exist. But when a dog is in our life, we need to embrace that feeling of fulfillment, and that is why we love the dogs so much. And that is why we are overcrossing the boundary of loving the dogs like it's a fellow human. Why? It's because they do represent someone or something happened in our life. It can be a person or it can be an event. But until we do not have emotional entanglement with a dog, we are not free. And that's why I always recommend the family constellation therapy with the pets, with the dogs. I don't know cats too much, even though the cats or any other animal is like a not different concept, and you can use a family constellation tool to communicate with anything and anyone in it. But I was specializing into family constellation with dogs. So if you have any doubts, you can go to our webpage, pureloveandharmony.com, and you can find a link that takes you to a order of harmony, and then you can read a little more about that, and you can maybe schedule your session, and then we can go through that experience of connecting or reconnecting or embracing and cutting the ties with the dogs on an emotional level that will bring you to a much deeper level of loving the dog for who the dog is, the dog. And then it will be very easy to implement the communication rituals and the nutrition without overloading the dog with the human traits. And when we start respecting the dogs for who the dogs are, the dogs, presenting them and fulfilling their needs, not ours, through them, then we start loving unconditionally, but not only dogs. We start loving others as well, our kids, our parents, our fellow humans, our associates, our bosses, our presidents, and doesn't matter anyone else is not in charge of my life. I doesn't mind who is a president, who is, where is going, what is going. Everyone has their own journey to this life. And awakening can happen overnight. The mind and the body might need time to catch up. That's why some healings or some real shifts gonna happen in time to come. Some constellation I did in my life unfolded years later because my mind and body needed times. But what we need to bring our life on is not to consciously or emotionally forget the events that are traumatic for us, but spiritually. To leave them time and space where they does belong, and maybe to whom they belong. Because having a siblings that are aborted, for example, in my life, or having a child that is aborted in the life of this guy that I was just talking to you, causes this, because it's not only my sibling, it's also the child of my mother. And my mother is in that strong relationship to those kids that the only way that she can survive might be that she freezes in time to those events and experiences. And me as a child is taking the burden of my mom because I want the best for my mom without even knowing what I'm doing. And that's where we get entangled with our doggies. That is where we get all of this, what I say, after this, like since when, 2015, I'm actually, family constellation, a therapist when it comes to a human-dog relationship and entanglements. And thousands, countless of sessions I had with my clients already made a pattern that it might be. But every single constellation is unique. And you can always see very unique ways of family system organize itself and put the ones that are living in service to the survival of the system itself. The system, the family system, and any other system is much more important than individual create the system. And oftentimes, out from the deep compassion and love, entanglements happen. And when the entanglements happen, that's very important part of losing the life force and life energy of both. The one that is entangled and the one that the burden is taken away from. And what's very interesting, nothing of this happened consciously. It's all and everything, deep unconscious motion of soul movement towards love. Pure love and joy that oftentimes is felt in sacrifice. Our dogs tend to do the same. Out from unconditional love to us, they are able and they are very much willing to sacrifice their life so we can move on. But by doing that and entangling in our weakness to solve our own issues and deep hidden traumas and emotional entanglements to our system, our parents, siblings, and all kind of different parts of our system that we might be end up entangled with, they sacrifice their life. But also by doing that, they're taking away our life force. So we end up, running in circle, trying to fix things we cannot, and we end up having all of this drama going inside the life because we cannot find the pattern. We cannot find the reason why the pattern can be broken. And oftentimes that's something that we really need to dive in deep so we can understand the root cause that's maybe hidden a couple of generations in our behind. And every single one of our parents or their parents, great-grandparents were just, getting themselves involved in this transgenerational trauma that actually kept going until us. And maybe now we have a chance using the dogs, not using them, with the dog's support to transform this generational curse into greater support of our future. And then with that said, I just want to thank you all for this wonderful joy of entire 2023 support that I experienced with you. all the greatness and amazing things that happened to us, all the challenges that that we went through, and all the fierceness that we needed in order to overcome those challenges are coming from these hidden sources of the life spring that are hidden within every single one of us. And only if we would just know how to drink from those sources, a pure love that flows through us, there is abundance, motion, and ocean of beautiful support that is within us. We just need to find the tools, and the dogs can be a guide to those sources. So with that said, I wish you all the blessings in time to come. Happy New Year and Merry Christmas to everyone. And a lot of joy, love, and happiness in 2024 with this last podcast we had today on this Thursday. We'll not stop. On contrary, we'll just take more actions in 2024 and follow us for more. And see you next Thursday in another episode. Everything you wanted to know about dogs, you just didn't have whom to ask. Love you dearly, big hug, and until next